Please make sure that if you have any questions, this is going to be a very interactive session. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We definitely encourage you all to give your opinions and kind of talk back. So that will be located in the bottom left, the bottom center of your screen. And then of course, afterwards, we will be going ahead and putting this onto our website and sending out the post-visit survey and the link to the recording, as well as some other goodies as well. And of course, for many of you who are here, I'm sure you've seen some of our advertisements for today's session. CCEI will be giving away a $25 either Visa or Amazon gift card to the attendee who fills out the post-visit survey right after this session. And we will be selecting at random, and then you will be notified and sent over. So a little extra something, you get some learning today, and you get some money maybe, possibly, so we'll see. But yes, I'm gonna go ahead with all of that and send it over to our Executive Director of the NCCA Storm Webb to do our introductions.
All right, thanks, Mariah. And thank you everyone for your time today. We really appreciate it. Just making sure you can see the chat. We've sent the gentle reminders so that you can know there's no mute button for you. You're automatically muted as an attendee and your video is off. So no worries there. Feel free to Q&A anything coming in so we can answer that live for you. You can also chat us so that we can present that to our presenter. And I'd love to introduce today's presenter for you, Ms. Leslie Coleman. She joins us from Child Care Education Institute, or CCEI, one of our very valued business partners. Leslie serves as the Executive Director for CCEI and has over 25 years of experience in childhood education, serving in various capacities ranging from a preschool teacher to professional development consultant, all for ECE professionals such as yourselves. Her training content is used to help educators reflect on and make enhancement to their interactions with children and families. So with that introduction done, Leslie, please take it away.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today. I am happy to be able to share with you some information about this growth mindset. What is it and how can we use it to support positive outcomes for children? I'm going to go ahead and stop my video for a second, and just so you can focus just on the screen and not my hand movements, because I am a hand talker. So I, again, am Leslie Coleman, the Education Director. You can see my contact information there on the screen if you have any questions after the session, either about the content that's presented or about CCEI. I will share a couple slides at the end of the presentation that just talk a little bit about CCEI for those of you who are not familiar with our product. So my intention for today is really to just have a conversation about the difference between what it means to have a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And what we're going to do is take a look at a number of strategies that you can start using today that will help you establish a growth mindset environment for children to thrive in. And it's really about making very small shifts in the language that we use on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to spend some time today really reflecting on the language that we use and how we can shift that language with intention in order to create more positive environments for young children. And rather than just me talking at you for the next 45 minutes, I do intend to ask you to participate. I'm going to give you some scenarios, and then we will use the chat box to record those responses to the scenarios. So if you want to, make sure that you've located, turned on, or activated your chat box. As Storm mentioned, it's depending on where how you have your screen set up, there will be a chat icon in the either top or bottom of your screen. So we will be using the chat box in actually just a second, and then throughout the session as well. So please participate at your comfort level. You are not, I'm not forcing you to share anything. Some of this information may be personal and you might not want to share it, so don't feel like you have to, but I invite you to if you have something that you'd like to share. So thank you so much for that. All right. Also, I believe Storm mentioned this, but if you have questions throughout, we'll be monitoring the chat box, but I do want to stay on track because I do have limited time, so we're going to save those questions for the end. Now, I'd like to just take a minute before we dig in to reflect on some of the statements I'm about to show you on the screen. And just sit with them for a second and see if you notice anything about them. Some of these may be comments that you've said to yourself in the past. Sometimes you may have heard other people say these things about themselves. And I just want you to consider for a moment the impact that statements such as these have, not only on ourselves, but on children and the other people around us. And if you are brave and you would like to share, do you have any statement that sounds like this that you say to yourself often? If you do, go ahead and type it into the chat box. Because I'm just curious if these types of statements are something that you have or that you say to yourself from time to time. Do we have any brave folks who want to share? Oh, I did not inherit the math gene. Yes, that is a message we receive early in life, isn't it? I kill all the plants, right? Absolutely. I'm looking at some dead plants here on my windowsill right now, and I realized I haven't been upstairs to water these in a while. Yeah, definitely. I say things about myself and my green thumb. I do not have a green thumb, right? I'm just not tech savvy. While these statements may seem innocent, playful even, we're joking, right? We're just playing around when we say these things. They can have a real impact on our potential, in fact. They provide us excuses. If I say, I don't have a creative bone in my body, and then someone invites me to go to a painting class, I might resist going to that painting class because I'm not good, I'm not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. So then I'm missing out on that opportunity to go explore my creative side because I've talked to myself for years about how I'm not a creative person. So they provide us with excuses to not put forth effort, to not give things a try. They limit our experience in what we're willing to, kind of step out of our comfort zone. And they also kind of become true, because if I believe I'm a mess in the kitchen, I'm not going to go into the kitchen and explore and practice and, refine my cutting skills and explore new flavors and herbs and spices and things like that. So it actually would become true. I would be a mess in the kitchen. And when we think about our role as early childhood educators, these statements aren't so innocent anymore. Because children hear them. Children hear us say them to ourselves. They hear us say things to others. We might even inadvertently say statements such as this to children. And we need to become aware of this so that we can begin to create an environment that promotes a growth mindset. So, even if you walk away from this session and you never address your own internal monologue, the things you say to yourself, I do want to challenge you to become more aware of the language that you're using while you're interacting with others, the things you say aloud. Yes, I see someone saying, Brittany said, sometimes I say things like that to take the pressure off or lower expectations. I totally get that. And when we think about the impact that might have for children, do we want to lower expectations? So just keep thinking about how these seemingly innocent statements can actually impact how far children go, and our role as educators in making sure that we set them up to go as far as they want to go. Very good. So those examples that I just shared are examples of fixed mindset. And it is a belief that we are born with a preset amount of intelligence and ability and talent. If you think about it, I wasn't born with the math gene is literally saying I was born without this. I have a low level of math intelligence. And that's really dangerous. We don't want children to believe that their intelligence is fixed by a set of external factors, perhaps. We do want to make sure that we're creating environments where there are tons of messages that children can follow their own interests and natural talents. And what we want to do in that case is create environments that promote a growth mindset. So growth mindset is the belief that we have unlimited potential to learn, grow, and develop new skills, but that requires that we put forth practice, perseverance, and effort. So if you can see the stark difference, I'm not good at this, I wasn't born with that gene, versus having a growth mindset that says, I'm not good at this, but I can practice, I can try, I can learn, I can study, I can do it over and over again until I get better at the skill. All right. And that's not to say that people don't have talent. You know, what comes to mind to me is like Serena Williams. She's brilliant on the tennis court. You know, you may have people that you know who are just experts at something, but I'm going to challenge you to find somebody who's an expert at something who didn't put forth hours of practice, who didn't persevere in the face of failure, and who'd not put lots of effort into what they're doing. And that's the difference. It's not so much the skill or the talent. Growth and fixed mindset isn't about skill or talent. It's about how you approach the situation. I'm either going to fail at this because I don't have this skill or ability and I'll never be able to get it, versus a growth mindset, which means if I practice, if I try, if I keep trying over and over again, there is potential for me to become better at this skill. And when we think about applying this directly to our profession, you know, whether you're reading aloud to children, completing developmental checklists, talking to upset families, mentoring staff members, any of the skills that we do, nobody was just born good at these things. It takes practice, perseverance, and effort. I know I've worked with teachers who just say, I'm just not good with parents. That's a fixed mindset. But if we practice, if we role play, if we discuss scenarios, if we talk to parents and interview them and find out more about them, we can come to a common ground, and I will build your skills. You can build your skills to become a better person who interacts with family members. So, sometimes we not only have to shift our own thinking, but we have to look at the other people that we're working with and help them shift their thinking as well. And hopefully some of the strategies that I share in the rest of the session will help you figure out how to do that. Okay. Now, all of this work comes from Dr. Carol Dweck. She's a researcher and professor out of Stanford, and she's focused on human motivation, self-regulation, success, achievement, and how all of those things come together. She's an author of a number of books and research studies. You can Google her name. You can find videos of her doing TED Talks and speaking at other organizations. The link that's on the slide under the word speaker is a link I believe we'll be able to share at the end in the chat box, so that if you wanted to click on that, or you could just Google that title. And you can hear from the horse's mouth kind of how she came to this realization that there are two different ways to approach new tasks and challenges in life. When we think about having this fixed mindset, we have to look into the motivation behind it, right? And I'll share a little personal story here, but Fixed mindset really focuses on being or looking smart. And I experience this often, especially whenever I'm asked to complete an unfamiliar task, something where I'm at risk of not looking smart. I don't think there's anybody out there who likes to look incompetent, right? Raise your hand if you like to look incompetent. Probably won't see a whole lot of hands being raised because that's not a comfortable feeling, right? So, oh, Linda, good for you. Thank you. You like looking incompetent. You're comfortable with that. And that's something that I aspire to for sure. But there's some triggers that I can recognize in myself whenever I am operating with a fixed mindset. And the first thing that I will do is procrastinate. If I am faced with a new challenge, I will procrastinate. I will put it off because it's really kind of challenging my inner thoughts and beliefs about myself, about how smart I am. This is new. I don't know how to do this. So fixed mindset, my first red flag that I am working from a fixed mindset is procrastination. And then once I do get started, because the task ultimately has to be done, I will work for hours to make sure that that first draft is perfect. And I try to anticipate all of the needs and all of the comments, and I use perfectionism as another tool of fixed mindset, because heaven forbid anyone see that I make a mistake and that I'm like everyone else on earth, a human being who makes mistakes. So over the years, I've been able to identify both procrastination and perfectionism as triggers that I'm operating from a fixed mindset. Now, when I'm able to identify those triggers, or those red flags, if you will, I'm able to shift into a growth mindset. And that's something I want you to realize. You don't just have one or another. We have both. We have fixed mindset things, and then we have things that maybe are more growth mindset oriented for us, skills and talents and hobbies and things like that. But what we want to make sure we're doing in early childhood education is creating an environment where the fixed mindset messages aren't part of our environment, and the growth mindset practices are what we put in place. So when I'm able to shift to a growth mindset, I'm able to sit with the idea that I am on this earth to be a lifelong learner. And that's the difference, right? Looking smart versus being a lifelong learner. And lifelong learners embrace challenges, and they persist in the face of obstacles. They view effort as the key to success. Effort, not the final product being perfect, but the effort that was put in to that product. They learn from feedback and criticism. They value it. Rather than anticipating what someone might say that is wrong with this, I could say, I'd like to put forth this first draft that is a rough draft and get other people's feedback so that I can make this the best product possible, right? And they celebrate the success of others. And these are the types of early learning environments where children really have positive outcomes. And so we want to make sure that we are creating these environments. And the first place to do that is just in the language that we use. Because really mindset development happens at a very young age. It's formed through the compliments that we receive and the recognition that we receive, right? When we are complimented and we are recognized for doing something good, we learn what is valued in the environment. What is valued in our culture? What is valued in the space that we're in? The people around us will compliment us on the things that are valuable to that community or that society. And that seeps in to our psyche. It becomes part of our identity. All right? I am dependable. I am creative. I am fast. It becomes part of who we are. Okay? Now, children also develop mindset indirectly. They absorb messages from adults and how adults talk about themselves. So, if you ever said out loud, I don't have a math gene, I don't have a creative bone in my body, well, Children are like, oh, I'm not a good drawer either. And then they pick up on that idea that they're not a good artist as well. And they also will pick up on how adults talk to others. So in those interactions between adults in the classroom or in the hallway, they will pick up on messages of what is valuable, what is of value in this environment. And it's also interesting to note that they'll pick up on what may be lacking in them. So if you have a particular child who never hears that they're a good artist or that they're really smart, they don't get those compliments of that other children may get. They may again begin to see or think about themselves in a negative light. I never hear you're so smart, so I must not be smart. So we don't want to have children internalizing compliments that are too focused on things they can't really control, like you're so pretty. Children can't control how pretty they are, as well as we don't want children to not get certain compliments. So we'll talk a little bit about how we can address this when we look at our strategies. We'll take a look at praise and complimenting in just a minute. And Carol Dweck found this out through multiple studies. Here's a quote from her. After experiments with hundreds of children, found that praising children's intelligence harms their motivation and harms their performance. And how can that be? Don't children love to be praised? So this is, I'm not going to give you like specific methodologies of her study, but I will share with you that she took a group of about 400 fifth graders and divided the group in half. And then she gave each group of children simple puzzles that were easy to solve. And one half of the group was told, you are so smart. You are so smart. You are so smart. The other half of the group was given the praise, you worked really hard on that. And time after time after time, this is what happened. When the researchers then presented the children with a chance to do a harder puzzle, a more challenging puzzle, 90% of the children praised for effort. You worked so hard on that, attempted the difficult puzzle. And a majority of the children praised for being smart, chose not to do that harder puzzle. And if you think about what we just talked about, the approach to a challenge, you either want to maintain looking smart or you want to take on new challenges. And the children who were praised for being smart were less likely to take on a new challenge. So if you go back to the quote on the screen, yes, children love praise. They love to be praised for their intelligence and talent. It gives them a boost, a special glow, but only for a moment. And the minute they hit a snag, their confidence goes out the window. Their motivation hits rock bottom. If success means they're smart, then failure means they're dumb. And that is an example of how young children have a fixed mindset. And that is pretty alarming. That just something as simple as saying, oh my gosh, you're so smart, can actually impact a child in such a way. And she has recreated this study over again and again and again. And in the links that are in the chat right now, you can watch her talk about these. You can read articles that describe more specific details about the studies that she has conducted. But I wanted to get really into the meat of things, so I didn't want to share too much about that. But I do want to get into what does this mean for how we communicate with children, or about children, or with and about our coworkers, with and about the families who are enrolled in our programs, and with and about ourselves, because again, that self-talk is really powerful. So the key to making any change is going to be awareness. We need to be aware of our own limiting beliefs and self-talk. And again, we might still think them on the inside, but we better not put them out there on the outside, because that can impact children. We need to be aware of the language that we use in children and in front of children. And interestingly, here's another quiz. And if Storm, if you wanted to share a link to this quiz, or it's pretty easy to just, again, remember the the URL there. You can take a little quiz that can help you identify where you fall on the spectrum of having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And I believe, if I am not mistaken, that this particular quiz gives results and strategies for supporting you to develop a more growth mindset approach. So we are now aware. What else can we do? And first and foremost, it's how we provide feedback to young children. Praise should deal not with the child's personality attributes, but with his efforts and his achievements. So what does this look like? I think we've all heard about process versus product art. Maybe we've moved into having more process-oriented art activities now. We can do the same thing when we think about our praise. You know, when children figure out how to manipulate new toys or use toys and materials in new ways, we could say something like, I watched you try different shapes in different spots of the sorter. You stuck with it until the job was done. Great work. Okay. You could talk about the steps that they used to complete a project. I noticed you drew the head first, and then you added eyes, nose, mouth, and hair. You drew 5 different face parts today. Okay, so rather than giving any judgment to how good something is, we can just state the facts about what they did and recognize them for their effort and the process that they took, rather than how good it looks at the end. Okay. You can also recognize children for the progress that they have made. Joy, you're doing such a great job catching the ball. I remember last month when that was a hard task for you, but I can tell you have been practicing. Okay. And we've all come through that age where we've, tried to provide more specific praise to children. Go beyond good job, right? Everybody's heard this. Say more than good job. Good job doesn't tell children enough. This is another case for expanding on the praise that we give to children. And this is just another way that we can provide praise. We can recognize children for facing a challenge and sticking with it. That was really tough. I saw you have trouble with that, but you tried 3 more times and you finally got it. Okay. We can recognize children for making a mistake, adjusting strategy, fixing a problem, taking risks. We can recognize children for asking for help, paying attention to details. And I'll give you some examples of these as we go through. But hopefully you're seeing that the praise, the words that we give children talk more about what they did, the process that they took, rather than the outcome, the end result. Okay. So children who work with growth mindset teachers receive messages that they can handle challenges, that they're capable of working out solutions, that there are different ways to accomplish a task. There's not one right way to get this done. There are many different approaches we can take to get to a desired result. Mistakes are learning opportunities. And this is a big one, right? Mistakes are bad. That is in my mind, I can't growth mindset that out of my mind. A mistake is bad. I'm still working, right? I'm in process as a human being. But the messages that we want children to receive are from this type of growth mindset. They also get to see that caregivers are a supportive resource. So yes, Deborah, you're right. It builds their confidence for sure. So what I'd like to do now is, again, using the chat box, is I want to give you a chance to try. I'm going to show you a statement. I'm going to show you a couple different statements throughout the rest of this session. And just, if it comes to you, type something in the chat box. It doesn't have to be right, because remember, we're all in process here and we're all learning. But I do want to see and get some feedback from you to see if you can turn some of these statements into more of a growth mindset statement. So the first one that we're gonna work on is, wow, that's an awesome picture. You're a great artist. So take a second and just make up what the picture looks like in your mind, right? And just create a statement that recognizes the child who created some art, but not in a way that sends a message that they're a great artist. And I'll tell you why in just a second. Go ahead and take that time to do that. Do I have any brave people out there? I love that beautiful butterfly you've drawn. I love how you use blue and green to make the color teal. I like how you use the colors. Tell me about your picture. Good, good. Very good. When we say something to a child like, you are a great artist, if they make something that isn't so great one day and they don't get that praise again, that dings that identity that they've created as a great artist. I love the color that you put into this. Absolutely. Great. You worked really hard on that picture. Tell me about it. Again, not necessarily providing our judgment, how awesome it is, but just recognizing the child for the effort that they put in. You could say, wow, I noticed that you took your time and added many details to your drawing. How did you learn to draw plants like this? Okay, that is another way that you could respond. Here's another statement to try. Did you finish that puzzle already? You are the smartest kid I know. And we've talked a little bit about smart already, right? Is there a way you could turn, did you finish that puzzle already? You're the smartest kid I know, into a statement that's more growth mindset or more focused on effort, practice, perseverance. Absolutely. I love how you took your time and figured out that how to put that puzzle together, right? You seem to really enjoy puzzles. Would you like another one? Mm-hmm. There's a great comment here that we can take I love out of our statement, because what we love doesn't really matter in this environment, right? What we can say is, I noticed. Rather than saying I love something, we can recognize it by saying, I noticed, I watched you do this. I watched you use lots of colors, rather than I love that you use lots of colors. And that's, you got to find the language that works, that fits your, what's comfortable for you. Wow, you finished that puzzle. Would you like to try another one? Right. You could say, I was keeping an eye on you as you worked on the puzzle. You recognized the right space for each piece and turned them until they fit. And that sends a message to the child that continuing to try, working hard, putting forth an effort can be what is valued in the environment versus the final outcome, or pleasing an adult even, when we think about the implications when we say I love something, right? Here's a third one to try. Good job putting on your coat. Let me zip it up for you because that's hard to do. Can you turn, good job putting on your coat. Let me zip it for you because that's hard to do. Can you turn that into something that's more growth mindset oriented? If you think of anything, you can type it into the chat box. But you could say something like, thanks for asking for help with your zipper. Zippers can be tricky for little fingers. Do you want me to get it started for you? So you're kind of acknowledging for the child that that is hard, that right now for fingers, zippers are tough. And then you can ask, would you like me to get it started for you? I see you put your coat on yourself. Would you like help zipping it, or can you do it? Right, exactly. Put your coat on. It's time to zip up. Would you like to try, or would you like me to try? You've grown so much by being able to put your coat on all by yourself. Would you like me to get that zipper started for you? Absolutely. Where did you learn to put on a coat? Let me zip that for you. And again, just asking, would you like me to help you zip it? Or would you like to try? Or can I get it started for you? Those are all things that you could say. Very good. Thank you for participating. We'll do that a few more times in the next few minutes as we go through these slides. So, but let's look at the next strategy that you can use to support a growth mindset in your environment. And that is recognizing the power of the word yet. So Dr. Dweck says, are you not smart enough to solve it, or have you just not solved it yet? Yet is so powerful. Yet means there's still time, right? Yet means we're working on it. You can add yet to the end of any sentence, right? But adding it to the end of children's self-talk can be really powerful. So I don't know how to play this game. Well, no, you don't know how to play this game yet, but we can learn. I can help you with the instructions, whatever would follow, right? I can't tie my shoes. No, not yet, but you will learn. It is a skill that you will practice. So using yet with children, with other adults, with ourselves, especially when we catch ourselves saying a fixed mindset, like I'm not good at math yet, because I haven't even practiced it since elementary school. So maybe I would get better at it if I practiced it from time to time, right? So that word yet, put it in your vocabulary and use it often. I think you'll find it makes a big shift. Everyone is in process. Another thing you can do to help, and this is a really cool strategy, to help children, and in some cases, adults might need this information as well, but to help children understand the idea of being in process is to teach them about how the brain works. You know, we don't have to get into neural pathways and things like that. You could say something to young children like the brain grows stronger each time you practice a new skill. Every time you practice a new skill, that brain grows and it gets bigger and stronger, you know, so we can simplify what we know about how the brain works so that children understand it. And that can help them recognize, I'm not good at this yet, but my brain's still working on it. And that can just be a way for children to understand something like, what is a brain? Like the whole metacognition of understanding that isn't something we'd necessarily teach to young children, but it's in the language that we can use when we work with young children. We can also teach children about motor development. I mean, if you sit down with a group of children and have them brainstorm all the movements that they do and think about, were they born with those skills or did they have to practice them? You know, everything from walking and running to doing the itsy bitsy spider hand movements, cutting with scissors. These are all things that children had to learn how to do, but maybe children don't realize that. So having conversations with them about the brain, about how they can strengthen their muscles and their coordination and their fine motor skills. If we teach them about how that develops, then they'll be able to see when they aren't able to cut on a straight line or aren't able to tie their shoes yet. It's just because their muscles haven't learned it yet, not because it means anything bad about them as a human being. Okay. And when we teach young children about empathy as well, we begin to help them understand the perspectives of others. And then they can begin to use some of that growth mindset language with their friends. A friend might say, I can't. And they'll say, but keep trying, or not yet, but you will. You know, and young children can then begin to encourage one another when they understand what it feels like. And they understand that empathy of feeling like you're not doing a good job. So can also focus on next steps versus the big final goal, right? And we do this all the time in our work. We don't just throw a family appreciation carnival in one day. We break everything down into small steps and we set goals, and we can do the same thing with children. And really recognizing practice, recognizing how children have made progress from the beginning of a process to the middle. They're not at the end yet. There's that word yet again, but they are moving closer to their goal every single day. Right. And so what I'd like to do is give you a chance to just reflect on, and if you can think of a way to turn these statements into growth mindset language, then please type it into the chat box for me. You hear a child say, I never win the race. I just can't run fast. How would you talk with that child? How would you turn that fixed mindset into a more growth mindset oriented reassurance? As long as you try, your best is good enough. I see that you're frustrated. We can try together. This may be one of those instances. Let's try. See, you really tried. Let's try to run together, right? This could be an instance where you talk about how the body moves, right? It takes time to build strong muscles, but if you keep practicing, you can get faster, right? Letting them know that you just don't get out of bed and run fast. You have to practice. And keep practicing, you will get better. Always try your hardest. That's what matters. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. So here's a statement that might be overheard in a conversation with a family. Julia is a very creative child, but she cannot follow the rules of the classroom. Well, hopefully no one's ever saying that to a parent, right? But how could we turn this into more of a growth mindset? There's tons of ways to respond to this, but think about, breaking things down into small steps, focusing on progress. Any ideas in the chat for me? So for the second statement, we could say something like, Julia seems to really enjoy expressing herself in the art center, right? So again, here we're saying Julia is a very creative child. If Julia is standing nearby, she's hearing, I'm creative. One day she might not feel creative. That creates that internal, like, what's going on with me? But what we can say, she seems to really enjoy expressing herself in the art center. We are continuing to work on appropriate ways she can express herself when she is frustrated. Rather than saying she can't follow the rules, we are continuing to work on ways for her to express herself safely, perhaps, is a way that you could rephrase that. And here's another statement, and just for the sake of time, the statement is, Josiah is using several words to communicate, but I'm concerned that he does not walk. All right. You could say, I love watching Josiah develop. He talks to me all day long. Over the next month, I'm going to focus on activities that will strengthen his gross motor skills and promote walking. So you can just see how, in this case, for the last two, we're really looking at the process and helping parents understand that following rules and walking are skills we have to practice. So we're going to put in place some strategies to help children develop these skills. That builds our integrity with families. It builds trust with families, that we are coming to them with our solutions and then engaging them in a conversation about what maybe they can do at home as well, rather than just presenting the information and leaving it there for the families to figure out. When we're interacting with children, another strategy to promote growth mindset is to really talk about effort. What can we learn from this? What did you learn during this activity? Tell me the steps you took. How did you figure this out? Where can we find more information? You just learned something new, and recognizing them for that, rather than for having a pretty picture. You just learned how to draw a new figure, whatever might fit. What could we do differently next time? Or you just took a risk and built a bigger brain. So if you're used to talking about brains with kids, you could add that language into your interactions with them and recognize them for the effort that they took rather than the final result. Another thing we want to do is make sure that we are addressing stereotypes that and stereotypical messages that are present in just society in general. And we want to make sure that we are filtering those out of our classrooms and learning environments. We want to make sure that any messages about traditional gender roles are not present. Two of the ones that come to mind, like boys don't cry, girls aren't good at math, and things like that. Those are things we want to be very mindful of and really remove. We want to take away any of the stereotypical messages that may exist related to race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, languages spoken in the classroom, anything that might have negative connotations for children from our diverse backgrounds that we have in our classrooms. The same with children and individuals with special needs. A lot of times it's seen that if someone has a physical disability, that their mind might also be impacted, and sometimes children have that idea in their heads. We want to make sure that we're removing any of those stereotypes from our interactions with children, as well as notice it's in quotes. I'm not saying there are bad kids, but some adults still have that idea in their mind that there are bad kids, and that the bad kids, there's something wrong with them or something less than about them. And we want to make sure that we are not sending that message. Children pick up on that. They know who the bad kids are, and they know that because they're watching us. And so we need to make sure that through our language and our interactions with children, it is not apparent that there are any bad kids in our learning environments. And I know that may not be a true reality, but we don't want to have any messages sent. There will be children who always have struggles with communicating their needs and expressing themselves appropriately, but they are in process as well, and they are learning the skills that they need to be able to communicate and interact with one another in safe ways. So that's the language we need to use with that. Not bad. And we also need to model growth mindset practices ourselves. So we need to revise our work. If we make a mistake when we're writing something out, let children know this is just a first draft. I'm going to make it perfect in my second or third draft, revising our work. We want to watch out for our own perfectionism and how that is displayed in the classroom. We should change our plans if things aren't working out, and the idea that comes to mind to me all the time, and I've seen this time and time again, is when a circle time or a read aloud just isn't going in the right direction. And I've seen teachers stop, recognize it, and say, you know what, guys, it looks like you guys really need to move right now. So we're going to put a bookmark in this book, and we are going to change our plans and finish this book later, and we're going to do some dancing now. And then I've seen teachers who also struggle through it and say, no, I'm reading this book. I started it. I'm going to finish it. And you will sit there quietly and you will finish this book with me. And those are two different mindsets, right? There's a fixed mindset of I've started it, I'm going to finish it. And the growth mindset that recognizes the needs of the children and the needs of me reading this book aren't aligned. So I'm going to change my plans. And I think that is really important work. We can compromise with children. Heaven forbid. They have ideas. They are human beings. Those ideas are valid. We can work with them to figure out different ways to solve problems. Obviously, every single day we practice our patience with everyone around us, right? With children, with family members, with our coworkers. But we do need to continually practice that patience and show, especially if we are someone who expresses our frustration enthusiastically, let's say. And we want to demonstrate perseverance. So when we are struggling with something in front of children, in front of our coworkers, in front of our staff, and it's a struggle and it's a challenge, we want to acknowledge that. And we want to say, you know, I tried it from a couple different angles and I just can't seem to get this. Do you have any ideas? How might I go about this? Like, being a leader doesn't mean you have all the answers. There may be someone on your staff who has an idea that is the fix for the problem, or it's an idea that leads to the fix of the problem. So it's okay to not have all the answers, but to keep trying. And that's the important thing. We also want to talk about the mistakes that we made and how we fixed them. And again, when we're talking about children, we're not sharing big mistakes we've made, like getting divorced or anything, but we can talk about, no, I took a different route to go to the grocery store and I got lost, and this is how it made me feel, and I didn't know what to do, but then I worked it out, and how you worked it out. Or if you make a mistake in the classroom, you can absolutely acknowledge that you've made a mistake and actively engage the children in ways to fix the mistake. They're not bad, even though I tell myself that all the time. Mistakes are not bad. So this is the last one, the last set, and we'll just kind of go through these. Again, this is language that hopefully you're not using. I just wanted to clearly make it obvious that we wouldn't want to use this language, but paperwork just isn't your strong suit. You should stick to tasks that you're good at. Hopefully no one here has ever said anything like that or heard anything like that. But another way that you could say that is, this paperwork can be confusing and time consuming. I know, I've been filling it out for years, but it gets easier the more you do it. How can I help you get this work done? Okay, thanks for the time check. All right. Another example, big boys don't cry, right? Let's not say that. Let's say something like, everybody feels big feelings. How can I help you? Right? Another statement, you might say this, just blurt it out because it's something that's just comes naturally to you. Just, oh, I hate it when I make mistakes, right? You could turn that around and say, I just realized that I made a mistake and I need a minute to figure out how I'm going to fix this. And just saying that out loud sends a completely different message than saying, oh, I hate it when I make mistakes. One creates an environment where mistakes are bad and not useful and to be avoided and feared, and it's going to create anxiety about making mistakes. And the other is, mistakes happen and I got to come up with a way to fix it. And I feel very strongly, and research backs me up on this, that children thrive in environments where mistakes are valued as learning experiences. So I just wanted to give you all of that. My last bit of advice, we talked about awareness being the first step and the language that we use being the second. And those are some strategies that I shared with you throughout the day. But it's not just about picking up a few pointers here and there. There's more work to be done. It's about seeing things in a new way. When people change to a growth mindset, they change from judge and be judged to learn and help learn. Their commitment is to growth, and growth takes plenty of time, effort, and mutual support. And that comes from Dr. Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And I see your comments that come through on the last few. So thank you so much. Those are great. At this point, that is all I have for the growth mindset. Are there any questions about, how you can support the growth mindset in your classroom? While you're thinking of them, I just want to share a little bit about CCEI. I have a couple of slides here, but I'll just talk a little bit about, we're an online training company. We are out of Duluth, Georgia. We've been in existence for over 15 years, and we do have tons of courses, about 150, over 150 courses that are available in English, and most of those have also been translated into Spanish as well. We offer certificate programs, director certificates, we offer CDA programs. Our students have completed over 7 million hours of coursework, which is really cool. And many students, most of our students would actually recommend CCEI to others. And I'm happy to answer any questions about CCEI as well. All of our courses are available 24/7. They're available on a computer, on a tablet, on a phone as well. And we have a lot of administrator tools that help administrators create professional development plans throughout the year for their staff, as well as assigning courses, tracking student progress on courses. Certificates can be printed immediately, and each certificate comes with CEUs. Subscription-based models are available for centers, and we also have individual models, individual subscription models for folks who aren't part of a center subscription package. So, and just a little bit about the fact that we are recognized by both the Distance Education Accrediting Commission, DEAC, and ISET, which allows us to provide CEUs for the work that students complete. And we are also approved by the CDA Gold Standard Comprehensive Training Provider. So that's a little bit about Child Care Education Institute. You can go to cceionline.com and take a look at some of our course offerings. You can take a free course. You can read through newsletters and blogs and all the other stuff that we've got there. So, all right.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I'm not sure if everyone can hear or see me. My screen is a bit frozen, but we really appreciate you taking the time to present for us today, and we're really proud to have CCEI as one of our business affiliates. So again, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today and for being such active participants. We really hope that you learned a lot. That was one of the things that Leslie had discussed with us, that she had a lot of interactive options, and you all really came through and delivered. So thank you so much. We know you're so busy. Again, we will be sending out the recording and the certificates for attendance. And we will be doing that random drawing. So one of you lucky folks will get an email, likely from the CCEI team, probably, I want to say, by the end of this week, if not next. But yeah, thank you so much. And we hope to see you in our next webinar. Please stay safe out there.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.